Hello and welcome back. We are on our final value of our remembering the basics and the four pillars of well-being, which is where we're going to focus on values. So I hope you enjoyed the last input in relationships and you managed to have a look at the PDF in terms of, really starting to understand where your social connections are and your communication style and what boundaries that needed maybe reinforced. So I hope that was useful for you. And today, as I said, as I always say, if this is not the time, come back, set aside some time, because this is important. This is important for you. Um, Something also I want to say is, as we've gone through this, that the BYOB program lasts for a year, in terms of content. So you'll have access to everything as you go through it, and we release it each month. But we do, as we got into month 4, we're going to start to go a wee bit deeper into some of this stuff. So don't worry if you don't fully understand some of the stuff that we're talking about. We will go into more. What I basically wanted to give you really was an overview, and that way everybody's kind of playing at the same level when we start to go a wee bit deeper. Okay, so we're talking about our values, and what does that mean? Really, essentially, it's things that are important to you, how you live and how you work and how you turn up into the world. And we all have different values for different reasons. Our values come from life, who has influenced our life, people that have shaped who we are, and people that have taught us. Now that can be parents, grandparents, siblings, family, caregivers. Lots of different people influence where our value sets come from. And it's really about matching up. When we feel good, we're aligned to our values essentially. And when we don't feel good, we're misaligned. So something's taking us out of alignment, if you like. And it just means that the values that are important to us, that's, see, when you get that wee gut feeling, something doesn't feel right, something feels off, it's because it doesn't align with your values. And that can create a source of unhappiness. So we might get dragged into some situation, might be work, a relationship, friendship, whatever, and being honest might be one of your values, and the situation might require, you might have lied or told, not told the truth, and that won't align with your honesty value. So that's why it will feel wrong and will start to kind of fester into something that makes you feel quite unhappy. So when we break, values down, what's really important is to know what your values are. Now, this is a huge piece of work because we don't really think about that, and you probably have never thought about it up until this point. And it's an exercise in finding out what's important to you. So some of the values you might have picked up from other people as you journey through life may no longer serve you. They may no longer be of use to you. So really understanding what your values are, why they're important, and prioritising those values as a way of being and a way of living will really help you feel aligned and content and happy. And that sounds really simple, but actually it is once you kind of know and align with your values. So, your friendships, your relationships, your intimate relationships, your work, your study, wherever your journey is taking you in life, if you know your values, you'll stay on track, is essentially kind of what we're saying. So we're going to talk a wee bit about knowing what your values are and then meeting your values. And we're going to talk a wee bit more about goals. So we've spoke about goals a couple of sessions ago, which is a kind of general introduction to making changes in terms of our health and well-being. So if we talk a wee bit now about knowing your values, if you meet the needs of your values, you tend to have higher self-esteem, better mood, less stress. Again, as I said, this is because you're aligned to yourself. So what's important to you? What are your values? For me, I really value friendship, dignity, courage, compassion, empathy, joy, love, service, generosity. These are, you know, some of my real core values that are important to me. And when I am not aligned to my values, I tend to be unhappy. So if I'm trying to think of an example, if you're in a situation where I am looking for a project or some work that might compromise my values. So, for example, if I don't feel that my clients will be treated with compassion, empathy, and dignity, then I would walk away from that project rather than compromise my values. So, and that can be quite a difficult decision because there could be financial implications or difficulties. But what I've learned over time is it's actually better. There is always a better opportunity the other side of that door, as long as we stay aligned to our values. So, it's kind of like the dark side, isn't it? You know, we get pulled into things for different reasons, but aligning to our values is just so important. So there's two stages to the personal values test, and how we do that is actually through a website that I'm going to put the link. I'll put it onto another page here, but it's basically www dot or https can I put that in here? I wonder if I can put it in the chat or something. Let me see if I can add it in. No, I don't know if I can add it in. I'll put it on a slide after this. But basically it's a website that you go to and it's totally free, there's no cost to it. But it helps you identify values that will resonate with you, and you just select as many kind of values as you want, and then it gives you an opportunity to compare the values and then assign them in a position kind of order, if you like. Take some time and explore that. I was quite surprised by some of my values, things that I didn't realise was that important to me, that were really top of the important list. So once you've completed this test, if you like, then you'll get an ordered list of your top 5 most important values. So the higher on the list, the greater the importance of the value. Write these down. Write the 5 down that you get, because whenever you make a decision or a connection or whatever, what you want to make sure is, does this align with my values? So that's why I'm saying spend a bit of time doing it. But the website is personal values, but the personal, it's personalvalu.es/. So the values word is split with a dot. But I will put it on another slide for you on the PDF so you can click on it up. In fact, I'll put a button in after this. That's how good I am. Right, that's what I'm going to do. We'll put a button in after this and you can click on that and it'll take you straight onto it. So I definitely, you know, pause at this point and go do that, because that's a really, as I say, probably quite a surprising wee journey to get to understanding your values and what's important to you. And then you start to understand how people in your life don't necessarily marry up to some of your values, and that's maybe why you have difficult relationships or difficulty communicating with people, or you kind of come up against, because we've all got different values. But the most important thing at this point is starting to understand your own values before we start to get into other people's stuff. So which of your values are being met? So once you've established what that top 5 are, what are being met and where are they being met? You know, through your work, through your studies, through your friendships, through your relationships. Where are they being met and how are they being met, and which values are not being met? And this is a really interesting one in terms of trying to understand what values that are not being met and how you can therefore meet them. So this is just a wee kind of example plan of values that might be important to you, your strengths, your values. So you could write a wee plan of one thing a day that you would like to bring in your values. So if one of your values is kindness, I'll bring breakfast in for the office. You might make muffins or something like that for people. Curiosity, after dinner, drive to a new part of town, go for a walk, watch a documentary with a friend. It doesn't need to be big complicated things, but it's just recognising that aligns with my values. So the big piece of work gets done first, identifying the values, and then what values are not being met, and then what can we do to meet them. So we talked a wee bit about goals already, and on part 2 you have a goal sheet. I'll add it back into this one so you've got it handy as well. But essentially, really why we need goals is to give us a sense of purpose. So remember I was talking about in the first part about all these different happy hormones and having, things that we enjoy doing, but and also things that give us a sense of mastery. Purpose is really important in order to feel like we're growing and we're developing and we're not stuck. So when you learn about your values, it helps you to then learn about your goals and if they two marry up, because you might uncover all these values about yourself and then realise that your goals don't match up with that. And that was kind of something similar that happened in my life, to be honest with you. I thought that my goal in life was to live in a house, have 2 children, have a 9 to 5 job, and it transpired that that stuff didn't actually matter. Obviously the kids did, but that didn't fill my cup, if you like. That didn't give me meaning and purpose to my life as much as what I needed. So when I found out some of the values and the depth of the values that I had, then there was an opportunity for a big change in direction. So this is quite a big piece of work to do on yourself, and can feel quite scary. And again, what I said to you is, you don't have to overhaul your life in that one go. There's a wee saying, I think this is another Tony Robbins quote, but people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can achieve in a decade. And if you reflect back on, that period of your life, a year or 10 years, you'd be amazed at what you can really do. And the first step, just breaking things down and generally taking a step in the right direction. So goal setting in that kind of SMART goal sheet that was in the other part, what you can start to look at is, what's the big dream, what's the big goal that you want, what big goal that aligns with your values. So that might be, I would like to, have a house, I would like to be in a relationship, and then start setting smaller goals that is going to work towards achieving that. Now listen, those goals can change, because as we grow and develop, things change in terms of our importance, but as long as we're aligned to our values, and we're working through our goals, then that's really the kind of key here. So I'm going to put the SMART goal sheet on here as well, so you can download it again and maybe start thinking about, what do I want to achieve, 5 years, what do I want to achieve by next year, so what do I want to achieve by next month. And that's how you break it down into small, manageable chunks, rather than something that feels so far away you don't even know how to get there. And by the way, you don't need to know how to get there just now. You just need to know how to get to the next part, and then it will become clear what the next part is. So only focus on a month at a time, but always have your eye on what the big end goal is and what that looks like for you. So that's just a wee kind of summary in terms of your values, and goal setting to align with your values. This is a really important lesson, because then you start living a life aligned to you. You're not just kind of coasting through. And again, when we're aligned, we don't feel as stressed. We feel productive and directed in a good place. So if you haven't already, I do encourage you to go and have a look at that website to look at get your values out of that, and then have a look at putting some small goals in place for yourself. What do you want to get next month, next 6 months, next year, to get to the big 5 year goal. So that's that in a nutshell. I'm also going to add on a wee goal visualization meditation for you. So the reason I'm going to do that is because sometimes we get to this point, people go, I don't really know where I want to go. I don't know what I want next month, next year. And that's also all right. But it's useful to have a direction to go in. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be rigid, so it can move and change and be fluid and flexible. But having a direction to move in will keep you focused and keep the stress levels down. So that'll be on just after this as well. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. This is the last input from just myself only, and in the next input we're going to see our lovely Christine, and I think we'll probably do a wee introduction and have a wee look at what we're going to do together in the first instance, and then Christine will take you through some more of the content. So to wrap up from my end, thank you so much for becoming and signing up to BYLB. I hope you've got something out of the bits that I've taken you through so far. I've really enjoyed putting together the content, as I always do, and when I get feedback, it's always really welcome. So anything that's been useful, anything that's that you could do with more of, please always just drop me an email, nicola@thetalkingrooms.com. And until next time, take good care of yourself.